there need to be a full investigation. It's, activity needs to stop, and there needs to be a full investigation.
How are you feeling, Amy, is really the first question. What do you make of the situation in Minnesota at the moment?
Yeah, I mean, well, for the last couple weeks, I've been feeling like, since the first shooting of Renee Good, it's just felt like any other law enforcement action, if there had been a shooting like Renee Good, there would have been a pause in activity, there would have been an investigation of what happened, and there would have been a revision of tactics because clearly something went wrong. Something went terribly wrong. Whenever you have the use of deadly force like that,
Yeah.
you have to pause and review. And that's just always been what happens in America. The use of deadly force is, there are a lot of laws and requirements around that. We can't have agents of the government, whether it's federal or state or local, using deadly force without really the right, provocation and the right situation. And yet that didn't happen. And then, I sort of went through this thing where about midweek, Vice President Vance was in town on Thursday, I believe it was. And he was talking about now cooperation and coordination. And I thought, oh, okay, the Trump administration is seeing that this has gotten too chaotic. And on Friday, we had this really huge march in the streets, and it was very peaceful, and
Mm.
it was very large, it was very loud, but it was incredibly peaceful. And I thought, okay, so those that are protesting are doing it right. The Trump administration is understanding. We're going to get some good conversation. And then I woke up Saturday
Yeah.
morning and to that just horrific video, and it just all seemed like everything just completely went in the wrong direction this weekend.
And the problem here is that the worry that you must have as a Republican, not least, but as an American, is that we all see the video. We know at the very least this is incredibly contentious. It looks like a guy who has not pulled his weapon being shot by forces of the state. It looks like an extrajudicial killing. It looks unjustified. It looks like murder. And yet, instead of saying, which you'd expect any normal government to say, this is a serious issue, this is a tragedy, we better investigate this and find out precisely. You have them telling us, no, the thing you're seeing on the video, you're not seeing. I just don't understand that.
No, I don't. I don't get it either. And at least, at minimum, it could be said, I don't know, right? You and I are
Yeah.
seeing the videos.
Yeah.
We're not there. You see it from different angles. I'm willing to say I'm not going to lay blame either way. There needs to be a full investigation. It's, activity needs to stop, and there needs to be a full investigation. But what I saw seemed to be the same thing that you saw. Um, and yet there is not a pause. There is not any kind of acknowledgement. And now, a VA nurse
Yeah.
is dead. And as a Republican, and by the way, also complicated by the fact, well, he was armed, or he approached us with a weapon. Notice the language is very clear. He approached with a weapon, not saying pointing it. No one seems to be saying that he drew it,
Yeah.
or they're saying no official is seeming to say he drew it, pointed at them, threatened them with it, nothing. And by the way, we know from the Minneapolis police that he was a lawful permit holder, which in the
Yeah.
United States I'm a supporter of.
Yeah.
Right? I believe that you get to do that if you and if you're handling your weapon properly with a permit, you're right to have that. And again, for my Republican friends, I would say you're very quickly jumping to a
Yeah.
conclusion that any other administration, if it were the Biden administration, you would be absolutely apoplectic about that procedure that was how it was handled.
And does that make you question the politics of the administration? Because these are deeply unsettling times for the Trump administration, globally and clearly now domestically. Are you worried that they don't have a grip, a moral and ethical, a practical grip on things that are going on?
Well, I think even domestic, or so globally, I've always felt fairly supportive. Like I've been seeing what happened to Ukraine, even the negotiations with Putin, Gaza. There seems to be at least more control than there were under the last administration. I think the Venezuelan, while I don't, I mean, I don't mourn Maduro. I thought the operation was handled well. Greenland, Denmark, our relationships with our neighbor to the north, Canada, I have concerns. Domestically, I would be focused on, yes, immigration. And I think he gets points there if he's putting away just the bad guys, right? We had, uncontrolled immigration, illegal immigration under Biden. And, I think he can win some points there. But this is just, I don't understand it.
Does
Like there's such an opportunity here for him to win on that issue,
yeah?
and yet somehow they're not.
Does he need to?
And in the process, people are dying.
Do they need to get ICE out of Minnesota? Does something need to happen where they say
Yeah.
ICE can't be operating like this? Because just again from the outside, these do not look like law enforcement people. They look like masked guys who don't conduct themselves like law enforcement people do conduct. They don't seem to follow processes like law enforcement people are supposed to. When things go wrong, the system doesn't seem to kick in like it would for other law enforcement people. Is that what Minnesotans feel, do you think?
Well, so ICE has been in Minnesota for years and years and years. There are local law enforcement has worked and has relationships with ICE here in Minnesota. And so it's not about ICE, the idea of kind of ICE out is sort of like when we said defund
Yeah,
police.
yeah.
It's not practical, it's not real. ICE has been here and it's been operating and it's been cooperating and coordinating and working with local law enforcement. It's this surge that is so many agents all at once with no coordination, no cooperation. And look, there is some on the other side, Walls and others have not been helpful in this. And I think their rhetoric has been also unhelpful. But this surge is really the issue. ICE has a place, and there's lawful areas that ICE and they play a very important role, and they have been in Minnesota. It's this surge and this operation that it was well past time to stop, pause, regroup, coordinate, and cooperate on a local level, and reevaluate everything, and then investigate and mourn the dead.
And actually, just finally, if this guy, Alex Pretti, as you say, a nurse, a VA nurse, was wrongfully killed, someone needs to pay for that, don't they?
They have to be held accountable. They have to be. That's the basis of our Constitution, and and Republicans and Democrats alike should agree that can't happen. That's like, I mean, that's the very tenets of being American, is that we don't. We always fought against that, right? Our government
Yeah.
is beholden to the people.
Yeah. Well, we'll see what happens, Amy. It's so kind of to speak. As I said, I'm sorry we're constantly speaking to you about Minnesota's a great state of America.
It
And
is. It's a beautiful state. It's very cold right now.
it
It's
is,
horribly cold.
but it's a great state. I'm sorry we're having to discuss this about it. But listen, thank you for taking the time to talk to us.
Yeah, thanks for having me.